Hi, Karen Luke here. Today's video is devoted to people that will be hosting video conferencing meetings, or as in my case, doing an 8-hour training day all through video link. I've been a professional trainer now for over 20 years, and that includes mainly face-to-face and also through video conferencing. Now, part one of my video conferencing tips has to do with just being a delegate or a participant in these types of video conferences. If you haven't seen that video, please see that before watching this one. I deal with things like lighting and camera angles. Practice ahead of time. This is absolutely critical. If you've never hosted a meeting before, you need to practice being a host. It is very different from being a delegate. Try and find a colleague of yours or a family member, pretend that they are a delegate and they throw things at you that you're not expecting. That practice time is absolutely critical. Just a couple of hours doing that. Make sure you've set the waiting room option on if it isn't already on by default. This is a very important feature because you also want to use that half an hour or so before the meeting starts for you to set up your video, make sure your audio works, doing all that sort of thing. You don't want to be doing that when your delegates are already there and when they can watch you do it. Breakout rooms are an excellent feature of video conferencing. Just like in real life, if you're seated beside a delegate and you get them to do an exercise with the person sitting beside them, they at least have some sort of a camaraderie. The other beauty of the breakout room at the very beginning is that it's going to tell you who has the better Wi-Fi and who doesn't have good Wi-Fi. When you do send people off into the breakout room, have your delegates turn off their camera before they go into the breakout room. Then when they get in the breakout room, they can turn their camera back on. At the very beginning of each session, make sure you spend about 10 to 15 minutes with your delegates and give them a little tutorial on how the day is going to unfold.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Not everybody has had experience with this particular video conferencing software.
Second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
You need to get everybody up to scratch to certain aspects. So what are the sorts of things you need to communicate to your delegates? They have to have their audio muted as the default. If they haven't muted themselves, you as the host have to mute them. It sounds terrible when I say it like that. Make sure you also tell your delegates to turn off their camera at every break. This is a really, really important feature because you don't want anything embarrassing to happen. If you have a delegate that is using their phone to join into the video conferencing, if you take a break, you have to tell that delegate they have to leave the video conference if they want to use their phone. They dial out and you can hear whatever it is they are saying. The only solution is that they have to leave the meeting in order to talk privately to the person on the phone if they're using the phone as the device for the video conferencing. I always make my lunch ahead of time and put it in the fridge so that all I have to do is nuke it or warm it up. The reason why this is so important is because you have to eat as you go along. You can feel the energy draining from you as you are being the host of these meetings. It is very, very tiring. And you have to keep your energy up all the time. You have to be up, and happy and engaging all of the time. That's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. So you need to eat. You need to fuel your body. Remember that the delegates can eat anytime they want during the whole day, but you're the one leading the session. You only have the break times and lunch to have food. Break times are a little bit different with video conferencing. It is very draining just looking at a computer screen. Try and have a 6-7 minute break every 60-65 minutes. Watch out for your delegates. I've done it a couple of times where I've broken at 50 minutes because we had just done something quite intense learning-wise. Be flexible. For lunch, you can take 60 minutes, obviously. I find 35 to 40 minutes is fine. 30 minutes is a bit short. I've got to do things like set up documents for the afternoon training session. If at all possible, I try to work in a group exercise right after lunch. Before my people leave for lunch, I say to them, I'm going to set you up in the breakout room now. When you come back from lunch, you're going to be straight into the breakout room. That is good for a few reasons. You as the trainer get a little bit of an extra break. People come back at different times, 1 minute, 2 minute differences. It also allows you to bring everybody back at the same time, much like the morning when you had everybody in the waiting room. You're going to see pretty quickly that you don't get a break. You do not get a break. Even that 5-6 minute break every hour, if you have to rush to the loo or something, that's all you're going to have time to do. Because remember, you always have to be the first one back. Because you're the host, you're going to get people that have accidentally logged out or their Wi-Fi is dropped. You got to bring them back in. When the delegates go off into their breakout room, you don't get a break. You cannot leave your computer screen. You have to sit there and watch your screen and make sure everybody gets in. Sometimes they get dropped out and you got to send them back in. Turn your camera off, turn your audio off, but you're constantly looking at your screen to make sure everybody's in the room that they should be in. But sometimes you're going to have delegates whose cameras either never work, or you're going to have people with really poor Wi-Fi that will never be able to make it out into the breakout room. You can use your main room as their breakout room. As I said in my introduction, I've been teaching adults and training adults for over 20 years now. I am pretty good in determining how long exercises take and how to time everything perfectly so we end correctly at the end of the day. I find with video conferencing, I am probably going to be training them an extra half an hour. There are technology issues, people speak over other people, you have things that don't exist in face-to-face training. If you want your delegates to see documents whilst you are training them or having a meeting, please make sure that you have set them all up ahead of time. Because when you go into share screen mode, they are going to be able to see everything that you have. I have had a couple of delegates that wanted to share a document, and of course the first thing I see is their screensaver. They go to another thing, go, oh, no, that's not the right thing.
I think you clicked your share screen.
And they're messing about. We're obviously seeing things they didn't intend us to see.
I actually think that was Jermaine that clicked share screen.
You have to get an external mic. You just have to do that. I outlined a few mic options in the other video. Now I find that the mics on the headsets are okay. Personally, I prefer a standing mic. I like the little Yeti mic. Actually, it's not that little. I like the fairly large Yeti mic. It just has great sound quality and it's about £100 or $100. You need to switch your lighting around. That's because the sun is going to change from the morning until the evening because the earth goes around the sun, and that's what happens every single day. Get standing lamps or bedroom lamps that you can actually move around on your desk. I'm all set up then. Here's my little microphone. There's my light that I'm going to be using probably this afternoon. I just like to get it all set up ahead of time. I've already looked at my documents. They're all set to go. In this particular course, I have to show a couple of videos. Set them all up, test the sound. Just a few minutes of preparation really helps a lot. You also need to be comfortable. I don't just mean in your clothing. I mean in your chair, I mean in leg room. You may need a lumbar pillow, just even any cushion to just sit on to make it more comfortable. That's going to be important. When you think of these Tibetan monks that sit still for 8 hours or something, you're not doing this for torture, you know? And you're not a Tibetan monk. And to help you recover your muscles for the day of sitting for 8 hours. After I finish the day, I go for a bike ride for 30 minutes just to get my muscles working again. I find that really helps me because my muscles are all, after 8 hours of sitting in a chair.
I didn't know we had a pool.
Those are my tips for you hosts, leaders, trainers, teachers. When it comes to video conferencing, it is a bit different than doing it face-to-face. There's no doubt about it. If you have any tips that I haven't mentioned, please write them down in the comments below. I'm all for learning what other people have done to make this video conferencing successful. Bye for now.